She said, "I'm not cutting off my ex just because you're insecure." Fair point, I said. Accepted Copenhagen, the position I declined twice for her. She realized I was serious when she showed up at my apartment to work things out. The new tenant answered the door. Throwaway account, because this story got way too real, and I don't need the drama resurfacing. But if you're here for some relationship karma justice, buckle up. This is how my ex-fiancée Paige basically handed me the keys to a better life on a silver platter of betrayal. AITA for finally putting myself first after years of being her emotional safety net? Spoiler alert, I don't think so. Let me start from the beginning, because context matters here. I'm Dylan, 32, data scientist at a Fortune 500 company in Minneapolis. I met Paige about 3.5 years ago at a mutual friend's housewarming party. She was this ambitious PR coordinator, full of big dreams about climbing the corporate ladder in communications. We clicked instantly over craft beer and terrible karaoke choices. I fell hard, and she seemed to as well. Early on, she told me about her ex, Zach. They dated for almost 3 years in college, but it ended messy when he decided to pursue freelance photography full-time instead of getting a real job. She painted him as this irresponsible artist type, always chasing the next creative high, leaving her feeling financially insecure. I, on the other hand, was the stable one. Steady 6-figure salary, 401k maxed out, already eyeing down payments for condos. That's what she said she loved about me. Fast forward about 18 months, and we got engaged. Nothing fancy, just a weekend trip to Duluth where I proposed on the shore. She cried, said yes, posted it all over social media. Finally found my rock, she captioned it. We moved in together, opened a joint checking account, started planning a wedding for the following spring. Everything felt solid, but that's when Zach started creeping back into the picture. At first it seemed innocent enough, a congratulatory text on our engagement. So happy for you both, that kind of thing. But then it escalated. Photo likes, comment threads, inside jokes in their exchanges. I'd see his name pop up on her phone during dinner dates, and she'd laugh it off. "Oh, Zach's just sharing some photography work. You know how artists are." The thing is, I did know. I'd seen his Instagram. Guy was talented, I'll give him that. Always posting these moody shots from coffee shops in different cities, concert venues, music festivals, the kind of spontaneous lifestyle that screamed, "Look at my exciting life," while probably living paycheck to paycheck. I started mentioning it casually. "Hey, it bothers me a bit that you're still so connected to your ex." Her response always rolled into defensiveness. "Dylan, don't be so insecure. Zach's just a friend now. We have history, but that's it. History." That word started to grate on me. I'd overhear bits of their calls when she thought I was in the shower, her giggling at his stories about some gallery opening in Nashville, venting to him about workplace drama instead of me. One evening, I caught her scrolling through old photos on her phone, lingering on one of her and Zach at some music festival, both of them looking carefree and bohemian. When I asked why she still had those saved, she snapped, "Memories aren't something you delete just because someone new comes along. God, why are you always so paranoid?" I wasn't paranoid, I was committed, financially intertwined, and, yeah, maybe a little traditional, but I loved her, so I tried to trust. Meanwhile, my career was hitting its stride. About 2 years into our relationship, I got an offer from our Copenhagen office, senior data scientist role with a 40% salary bump, full relocation package, stock options. The whole 9 yards. Working on cutting-edge predictive analytics for European markets, living in Denmark, exploring Nordic. Culture. It was everything I'd been working toward, but Paige was just getting established in her PR role at a mid-size agency, and she freaked out at the idea of moving. "I can't uproot my life right now, Dylan. What about my career trajectory, my friends, my family? And honestly, Zach's going through a rough patch right now with his photography business. I want to be around for emotional support." Wait, what? Zach's business struggles mattered more than our future together? I turned down Copenhagen for her. She hugged me tight that night, whispering how much she appreciated the sacrifice. "You're my anchor, Dylan. I don't know what I'd do without you." But 8 months later, the offer came again. Same position, even better terms. Plus they'd thrown in a signing bonus worth nearly 20 grand. Paige was more established by then, but she hesitated again. Copenhagen sounds amazing, but I'm still not ready for that big a change. And Zach just had his equipment stolen from his car. He's devastated, talking about giving up photography entirely. I feel terrible leaving everyone behind right now. Again, Zach. I declined the second time, telling myself it was for us, for our engagement, for the wedding we were planning. My manager pulled me aside afterward. This is career suicide, man. Opportunities like this don't come knocking forever. Fast forward another year, and things with Paige were visibly strained. Her friendship with Zach had ramped up significantly. Coffee meetups she downplayed as just catching up. Late-night phone calls she'd take in the other room. I'd catch her making subtle comparisons between us. Zach's working on this documentary project about street musicians. It's so inspiring. Your job's great, Dylan, but it's just so predictable. It stung. I was the one covering most of our joint expenses, planning our future, being there through her professional setbacks. Yet somehow, I was predictable. The stable guy who'd sacrificed 2 major career opportunities was now boring in her eyes. The writing was on the wall, but I was too invested to see it clearly. When the third Copenhagen opportunity presented itself about 6 months ago, I knew it was my last shot. Different team, same terms, but the hiring manager made it clear this was the final offer. By then, Paige's behavior had become impossible to ignore. Her friendship with Zach had evolved into something that felt increasingly like an emotional affair. I brought it up over dinner at our usual Thai place on Grand Avenue. Paige, this could be huge for both of us. Fresh start, better life, real career advancement. Copenhagen is offering the same package. She sighed, pushing pad thai around her plate. I get it, but I'm happy here. And honestly, if you're pushing this because you're jealous of Zach, that's on you to work through. Jealous? Maybe a little, but it was more about respect and boundaries. Look, if we're getting married in 8 months, maybe it's time to establish some boundaries with him. This feels like emotional cheating. Her eyes narrowed dangerously. Emotional cheating? Wow, Dylan, that's dramatic. I'm not cutting off my ex just because you're insecure. People can be friends after dating. You need to grow up. That line hit like a calculated strike. I'd sacrificed 2 major promotions, financial growth, career advancement, all for her comfort and her need to maintain this connection with Zach. And now I was the insecure one for wanting basic respect in our engagement. I sat there staring at my green curry, feeling the weight of those 2 declined offers, the joint bank account I'd been primarily funding, the wedding deposits we'd put down from my savings. The venue alone had cost us $4,000, non-refundable. But I didn't argue. Not yet. Instead, I nodded slowly. Fair point. And in that moment, something fundamental shifted inside me. I excused myself to use the bathroom, pulled out my phone, and replied to the Copenhagen email that had been sitting in my inbox for 3 days. Accepted. Start date in 10 weeks. No fanfare, no announcement. Just a quiet decision to stop being her backup plan while she explored her options with Zach. The next 2 months were a masterclass in detachment. Paige acted like nothing had happened, still texting Zach openly, posting subtle Instagram stories about cherishing authentic connections and staying true to yourself. I kept my acceptance completely under wraps, quietly tying up loose ends at work, researching Copenhagen neighborhoods, even started learning basic Danish on Duolingo during lunch breaks. Internally, I was processing years of sublimated resentment. Those late-night walks around the Minneapolis lakes, staring at the downtown skyline, wondering why I'd declined Copenhagen twice for someone who saw me as predictable. The confusion gnawed at me, but I didn't lash out. I just detached, started packing boxes during her evening yoga classes, focused on logistics. It was like watching a movie of my own life, finally realizing the plot twist was me choosing myself for once. I began separating our joint finances methodically, opened a new checking account, started redirecting my direct deposit, calculated exactly how much I'd contributed to our shared expenses over the past year. The numbers were sobering. I'd covered roughly 70% of everything, including rent, utilities, groceries, and those wedding deposits. 3 weeks before my move date, I quietly canceled our wedding venue, eating the $4,000 deposit without telling her. Called the caterer, the photographer, the DJ. Absorbed every cancellation fee rather than deal with the confrontation. It felt like buying my freedom in installments. Paige remained oblivious, spending more time networking after work. Code for drinks with Zach and his artsy photographer friends, I suspected. Her social media showed her at various Minneapolis venues with creative types, but I'd catch glimpses of Zach's distinctive photography style in the background of some shots. The breaking point came on a Thursday evening, about 6 weeks before my departure date. She came home around 10 p.m., slightly tipsy from another networking event, and dropped onto our couch with a dramatic sigh. "We need to talk, Dylan." I knew exactly what was coming. I sat across from her, calmer than I'd felt in months. "Okay, what's up?" She fidgeted with her engagement ring, avoiding eye contact. "This isn't working anymore. You're suffocating me with all this jealousy about Zach. We're just friends, but you keep making it this massive issue. I need space to figure out what I really want." Space, right. What you want, like with Zach? She rolled her eyes, that familiar smirk creeping across her face. "See, there it is again. Insecure Dylan. Zach gets me on a level you don't. He's creative, spontaneous, passionate about his art. We talk about real things, life, dreams, authentic experiences. You're always so focused on spreadsheets and retirement planning and playing it safe. The irony was suffocating. I've been playing it safe? I turned down Copenhagen twice for you, Paige." She waved it off dismissively. "Whatever, Dylan. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You use your sacrifices as weapons. The point is, I deserve someone who matches my energy and doesn't try to control my friendships. Zach's not perfect, but at least he doesn't clip my wings." Her words were like surgical strikes, designed to inflict maximum damage while positioning herself as the victim. So, she was choosing his friendship over our 3.5-year relationship, our engagement, our planned future together. "God, why does it have to be a choice?" she continued, building momentum. "But if you're forcing me to choose between your insecurity and my authentic friendships, then yes. I'm not cutting him off just because you're threatened. That's emotionally manipulative." "Dylan, if you actually trusted me, this wouldn't even be an issue." Manipulative. From the woman who'd spent months guilt-tripping me into declining career opportunities while conducting an emotional affair right in front of me. She leaned back, crossing her arms, looking so confident in her moral high ground. "I think we should take a break, maybe permanent. I'll stay at Lisa's tonight. Give you time to think about how controlling you've been." I didn't beg, didn't raise my voice, didn't promise to change or compromise further. Just looked at her steadily with a calm I hadn't felt in months. "Fair point. If that's what you want, go ahead." She blinked, clearly expecting a fight, tears, desperate promises to work on my jealousy issues. "Wait, that's it? No, please don't go? You're just okay with this? What do you want me to say, Paige? You've made your choice pretty clear." She huffed, grabbing her overnight bag with theatrical frustration. "Fine, whatever. You'll regret this. When you realize no one else is going to put up with your boring, predictable routine. Zach was right about you." And with that parting shot, she was gone, slamming the door. I heard her muttering something about finally being free as she walked down the hallway. Sitting alone in our apartment, the silence was deafening. I poured myself a decent bourbon, sat on the balcony overlooking the Minneapolis skyline, and let the unfairness wash over me completely. 3.5 years of loyalty dismissed as controlling behavior. Career sacrifices thrown back in my face as evidence of my inadequacy. Part of me wanted to call her, explain about Copenhagen, make her see what she'd just thrown away. But no. That would be begging, and I was done begging for scraps of respect from someone who'd already emotionally checked out months ago. Instead, I texted my manager at 11 p.m., move timeline confirmed, wrapping up projects ahead of schedule. Then I started the systematic process of separating our intertwined lives, called the bank to remove her from our joint account, notified the landlord about breaking our lease early, even called our wedding vendors and canceled everything, absorbing cancellation fees that totaled nearly $3,000. No drama, no social media announcements about the breakup, just quiet, methodical forward momentum. The next month was a blur of logistics and strategic goodbyes. Paige tried reaching out twice through her sister Lisa's phone, probably expecting me to chase her down, begging for reconciliation. First text, "Hey, it's Paige. My phone's acting weird. Can we talk? I didn't mean for things to end so dramatically." I didn't respond, Then an email 2 weeks later. Dylan, come on, you're being childish. Let's meet and sort this out like adults who care about each other. Still nothing from me. I was practicing what my therapist friend called the gray rock method. No emotional reaction, no availability for manipulation, just neutral existence while I systematically rebuilt my life around my own priorities. Word got around through our mutual social circle pretty quickly. One friend messaged me, "Dude, Paige is telling everyone you overreacted about Zach. Says you're ghosting her out of spite because you couldn't handle her having male friends. Let her spin whatever narrative she needed to maintain her victim status." I kept my responses minimal and factual. We wanted different things for our future. I wish her well. No bad-mouthing, no details about Copenhagen, no attempts to correct her version of events. That information was my business now. 3 days before my flight to Denmark, I handed the apartment keys to our landlord and spent my final night in Minneapolis at a hotel near the airport. For the first time in years, I wasn't planning around someone else's emotional needs or comfort zone. Landing in Copenhagen was absolutely surreal. The clean lines of Kastrup Airport, the efficient public transportation, the palpable sense of starting over. My new team welcomed me with genuine enthusiasm and professionalism. Team dinners at cozy restaurants, recommendations for neighborhoods, invitations to weekend cycling trips through the Danish countryside. The work exceeded every expectation. Challenging projects involving predictive analytics for Scandinavian market trends, collaborative international teams, the kind of intellectual stimulation I'd been craving. I found a minimalist apartment in Vesterbro, overlooking one of the canals, started exploring Copenhagen's incredible coffee culture on weekends, even picked up conversational Danish faster than expected. The confusion and resentment from Minneapolis began fading into clarity. I'd been holding myself back for her approval, sacrificing my growth for her comfort, and now I was free to build something meaningful on my own terms. Friends back home kept me loosely updated, though I never asked for details about Paige's situation. About 6 weeks into my Copenhagen life, my buddy Jake messaged, "Hey man, thought you should know Paige and Zach are definitely together now. She's posting pictures of them at art galleries and music venues. Very bohemian creative couple aesthetic." I read that while sipping excellent Danish coffee overlooking Nyhavn, watching tourists take pictures of the colorful buildings. Good for them, I thought genuinely at first. She'd gotten exactly what she wanted, but the shine wore off quickly for their artistic romance. From what I gradually pieced together through sporadic updates from mutual friends, Zach's creative lifestyle came packaged with serious financial baggage. Credit cards maxed out from equipment purchases and travel expenses, irregular income from freelance photography work, no health insurance or retirement savings. The kind of financial instability that looks romantic at 22, but devastating at 30. Paige, riding high from our breakup, had impulsively quit her stable PR coordinator job to support his photography career full-time and pursue her own authentic path. She'd burned bridges at her agency with a dramatic resignation speech about corporate soul-crushing and following her creative passions. Terrible financial decision that would haunt her within months. They spent the summer chasing his artistic dreams across the Midwest, her funding most of it with the savings I'd helped her build during our relationship. But friends started distancing themselves from her narrative, especially after she was overheard at a gathering describing our 3.5-year relationship as suffocating and calling me emotionally stunted. The cracks in their artistic paradise started showing by early fall. Zach apparently got volatile during a photography trip to Nashville, explosive arguments about money and creative direction that other guests at their hotel complained about. Friends who'd initially supported Paige's authentic journey started reporting uncomfortable incidents where Zach would openly flirt with other women at gallery events while she watched helplessly. The final blow came in October when he abandoned her in Nashville after a particularly brutal fight over finances. Left her with hotel bills totaling $800 and no transportation home, while he drove off with their shared rental car to chase some photography opportunity in Austin. Sound familiar? The pattern she'd claimed to escape with me had reproduced itself with interest. She scrambled back to Minneapolis alone, jobless and burning through credit cards just to cover basic living expenses. Her LinkedIn showed desperate job hunting, but the bridge-burning resignation from her PR position had created industry reputation damage that was hard to overcome. Without the professional network I'd helped her cultivate during our relationship, landing decent opportunities proved nearly impossible. Meanwhile, my life in Copenhagen was exceeding every expectation. Promotion discussions started within my first 4 months, weekend trips to Stockholm and Berlin, even cautiously exploring the Danish dating scene through work social events. No serious attachments yet, but the freedom to pursue connections without walking on eggshells around someone's ex was liberating. The complete reversal became clear by winter. She'd discarded me as her safety net, only to discover there was no net at all. Her attempts to reconnect started subtly in November, then escalated into desperate territory. First, an email slipped through to my work address since she'd apparently been blocked elsewhere. "Dylan, hey, heard you're in Copenhagen now. That's incredible. Congratulations on everything. Look, I know things ended badly between us, but I miss our conversations. Zach was a huge mistake. He's nothing like I remembered. Can we talk? Just as friends?" I read it at my favorite cafe in Nørrebro, watching Copenhagen winter settle over the city. No? Sympathy stirred. She'd called me insecure for wanting boundaries, yet here she was after her spontaneous romance imploded exactly as predicted. I archived the email without responding. Next came texts from unknown numbers, clearly burner phones. "It's Paige. Please don't ignore me. I messed up catastrophically." Zach turned out to be controlling and manipulative. He isolated me from everyone, drained my savings, left me completely stranded. "I see now how good you were to me." The hypocrisy was staggering. Now I was the good guy after being dismissed as predictable and controlling. The calls and voicemails escalated through December. "Dylan, please pick up. I'm sorry for everything. I was arrogant, dismissive, completely unfair to you. You didn't deserve any of that treatment. Let's meet somewhere. I could visit Copenhagen. We had something real and authentic." Her tone shifted from apologetic to pleading, then to angry. "Why are you being so cold and vindictive? I thought you were better than this." Zach left me broke and alone. My credit cards are maxed at $18,000. My family's worried sick about me. At least respond so I know you're alive. Through it all, I maintained complete radio silence. No responses, no emotional engagement. It was fascinating watching someone who'd wielded emotional manipulation so effectively suddenly powerless when those tactics met absolute indifference. The final confrontation happened at an unexpected venue. I'd flown back to Minneapolis for my former colleague's wedding, my first trip stateside in 8 months. Kept the visit low-key, but word spread through our social circle that I'd be there. The wedding was at a beautiful venue in Stillwater, overlooking the St. Croix River. I was genuinely enjoying the reception, catching up with old friends, sharing stories about Copenhagen life. Suit tailored in Denmark, confidence radiating. The kind of contentment that comes from choosing yourself over someone else's. Dysfunction. Then I spotted her across the room. Paige, looking disheveled in an ill-fitting dress, eyes puffy from recent crying. The bride must have invited her out of loyalty, unaware of our history. She'd clearly been watching me from across the venue, gathering courage. She cornered me by the bar during cocktail hour, voice shaky but desperate. "Dylan, you're here. God, you look incredible. Successful and confident. I flew back early when I heard you'd be attending. We need to talk." I sipped my bourbon, completely calm, no emotional pull whatsoever. "Paige, this really isn't the place. Please," she begged, glancing around nervously at other guests. I was completely wrong about everything. Zach was a total disaster. He cheated multiple times, drained my savings for his equipment, left me isolated from everyone who mattered. My career's in shambles because I quit so impulsively. I see now that you were my anchor, my stability. I threw it all away chasing some fantasy. Come back to Minneapolis, or let me visit Copenhagen. We can start fresh. The desperation was thick in her voice. Now she wanted the stable life she'd mocked, the predictable routine she'd rejected. I set my glass down, voice steady and completely detached. "You said your piece, but that chapter's permanently closed. I've built something meaningful in Copenhagen. New role, new city, new perspective on relationships. You're not part of that equation anymore." She teared up, anger flickering beneath the desperation. "That's it? After everything we shared, you're just done? I'm begging here, Dylan. My family thinks you're being cruel and heartless." "Tell them I said hello," I replied flatly. "But their opinions don't factor into my decisions. Neither do yours, honestly. I've moved forward, literally and figuratively. You're irrelevant to my happiness now." She stared, finally understanding the complete power reversal. Me, thriving independently, her desperate and broken. The roles had flipped entirely. Other guests were starting to notice her emotional breakdown against my calm indifference. She muttered something about regret and walked away. Shoulders slumped in defeat. I rejoined my friends, toasting the bride and groom, completely free from the past. Her desperation held no power over me anymore. Back in Copenhagen, life continued its upward trajectory. The promotion came through in January, along with equity options and a corner office overlooking the harbor. Weekend sailing trips in the Öresund, photography walks through Christiania, learning to appreciate Nordic design philosophy. Karma had delivered completely. I'd simply accepted the upgrade she'd forced me to pursue. Sometimes the best revenge is living well, and the sweetest victory is complete indifference to someone who once controlled your major life decisions. She wanted excitement over stability, adventure over security. She got exactly what she'd asked for and discovered what I'd known all along. Sustainable happiness requires more than romantic drama and artistic passion. Thanks for reading. What do you think about this story? Share your thoughts in the comments below.